Unless you've been living under a rock for the past few years, then you've probably been impacted by, heard, seen, or even bought user-generated content. Simply put, that's UGC. Today, I'm here to talk about what UGC is, how it's gotten so popular over the past few years, and if it actually works as far as producing sales and getting attention on social media. You guys know I'm not one for really long intros, so let's just hop right into it. What is UGC? So I said it earlier, but UGC stands for user-generated content. Simply put, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's when users of a specific product take videos, pictures, and other types of content for that product. UGC can really span from a whole variety of things. Usually you see it in short form video style ads, but it really all just depends on the brand and the creator. Speaking of creators, this is a really important time to mention that user-generated content, just the name by itself, especially if you've never heard of it, you probably think that it's actually made by people who buy the physical product. 9 times out of 10, that is not true. Typically what happens is brands actually hire creators, or just like the C in UGC, they hire creators to come in and make those pictures, videos, and ad style content. Now, this probably begs the question, is it actually ethical for people to be doing UGC? And this all just depends on how you define the word ethical. Typically, UGC creators, it's their first time experiencing a product prior to them making a video or a piece of content about it. So yes, they didn't buy the product. A brand did hire them to talk about the product, but in all intents and purposes, if they're being real, raw, and honest, then their reviews of the product are more than likely the truth. It's just that brands did hire them and they didn't pay for the product. So like I said, it depends on how you define the term ethical. I actually think it's pretty ethical altogether, but then again, is marketing ethical? Is acting ethical? You could get into a really big conversation here that is for another video, but that is what UGC is. Now, the big question, why has it gotten so popular? There are a lot of different ideas on this. Personally, the idea on why I think it's been so popular, and out of the hundreds, if not thousands of UGC ad creatives that I put together so far, it's simply because e-commerce stores, and actually not e-commerce stores, anybody wanting to grow on social media, but with a specific focus on e-commerce stores, you need a lot of content to grow on social media. Anywhere from famous celebrities who got famous off platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels, or heck, even Mr. Beast, who got super famous from YouTube, all understand one thing. The volume of their content directly correlates with how much they're able to actually grow on social media. If you're only posting once a quarter, you're probably not growing on social media a lot. But if you're posting 4 times a day, your chances to grow and specifically go viral and get people's attention, whether it be for sales or just for a simple follower, it dramatically skyrockets. In my opinion, UGC has gotten so popular because it is the most low effort way to get a lot of content for brands really fast. You see, UGC is very simple. It's usually just people with their iPhones taking videos of themselves and product reactions in the mirror with a lot of different things, but it's usually recorded on a phone. That means the traditional style of fancy editing to make a commercial or do things that brands used to have to do, like being on the radio, you don't really have to do them anymore. You need the thing that just about everybody in America has nowadays, a cell phone, and it doesn't even need to be that great. Most UGC ads look pretty blurry. The camera quality typically sucks. The lighting isn't all that great. Like, it's a very low lift strategy to get a lot of content. On top of that, UGC looks very real because typically it is. Anybody sees a UGC ad, a UGC video, any type of user-generated content, it feels authentic. It builds instant social proof and community building around an audience. Because the whole idea of user-generated content is to be specifically hyper-targeted towards a group of people. So for example, people who like riding bikes and are cyclists. Whenever you're making UGC content specifically for that group of people, it is tailored for them. So the UGC ads that you make and that you put together are UGC ads for cyclists. Typically, UGC is hyper-targeted based on the niche, passion, hobby, industry, whatever it is. Whenever people have something in common, UGC content tailors to the thing that they have in common. So the UGC that you're typically seeing is tailored for one specific group of people. So to answer the question bluntly on why UGC has gotten so popular, it is very easy to make It resonates with audience. It builds social proof. It builds a really, really amazing community. I mean, I could go down the list, but simply put, UGC is a very low effort way to get the content that you need to grow and scale your business, whether it be a personal brand, whether it be e-commerce brand. You can get a lot of attention really, really quickly because you need a lot of content anyways to grow, and UGC is a super easy way of doing that. Now, here's the question that everybody wants to know. Does UGC actually work? Absolutely yes, but only if you do it right. Let me explain. Typically, when people are new to the UGC space, they think it is as simple as what I just told you. Grab your phone, record a video or something, and people are gonna care. So you'll either go viral, get lots of views, get lots of followers. If you're in the e-commerce game, you'll grow a whole lot of sales. That could not be farther from the truth. Now, if we were talking about 3 or 4 years ago when UGC was still very, very new, don't get me wrong, I still think we're pretty early with UGC, but when people first started making it in about 2016, 2017, you were able to get away with making UGC videos that were pretty terrible in my opinion. The ads didn't have to be good, they didn't have to be very persuasive. The idea of someone using their phone to make a video back then was so new, raw, and authentic that people really bought into it. Now, on the other hand, your UGC has to follow a formula. Don't get me wrong. UGC still needs to be authentic. It still needs to be raw. And as a matter of fact, the more raw, the more authentic it is, typically the better that it performs. With that being said though, for my clients and the UGC that I've produced inside of my e-commerce brand, and trust me, I've produced a whole lot of it, it all follows a very specific format. And again, it's not to trick people, but because the structure that I'm talking about that UGC has to follow is very, very in-depth, because people, especially with short-form content, their attention spans are very, very slow. It's a pretty sad statistic, but I'm sure you've seen it. I think now a human, as like the whole human race, like our attention span has gotten smaller than a goldfish. And that is true even in the marketing world of UGC. You see, the structures and the ad formulas that I'm talking about, they're not very, very complicated. They're actually really, really simple, but they're all predicated on the one fact that people do not pay attention for very, very long. And in order to get people to pay attention, we have to follow specific formats that allow people to pay attention for longer than the average time of, I think, like 3 seconds. That is why UGC is really, really, really not effective for people who are not following a formula. If you were just picking up your phone, you heard about UGC on YouTube, you see people doing it, you see people making money with it, but you don't actually have a very, very proven, and I mean like bulletproof formula, UGC won't work for you. And I would even argue UGC probably doesn't work for more than half of the brands and people who actually try to get into it and do it themselves. You see, UGC, it is like any other skill. In order to do it, you have to do it a lot to get better at it. Thankful for me, I've done it a ton. Thankful for my clients, I've produced a ton of content, all on UGC, and as quiet as it's kept, I've produced a lot of bad content as well. That's how I figured out the little key triggers and things that I talk about all the time on Twitter, TikTok, and some of my other platforms. But does UGC work? The answer is yes, but only if you do it right. You see, UGC is a skill that my clients are using right now to make several 6 figures, some even the 7-figure range. And right now, some of the most popular brands on the internet are all heavy leveraging UGC ads, and that's for a reason, because it actually does work. Don't just take my word for it. Go to Hot Smile, go to Snow Teeth Whitening, go to Manscaped, go to Dr. Sasquatch, go look at some of the humongous brands taking off right now in the e-commerce space and see that they are actually using a ton of user-generated content. Not because it's some pie-in-the-sky strategy, because it actually works. And if brands with millions of dollars marketing budget are doing it, then who cares what I think? Just look at them and it's pretty obvious this stuff works. And it actually works really, really well. Since you made it this far in the video, you probably know a whole lot more about UGC whenever you first came into it, especially if you didn't know anything about it. But you are still far from an expert. UGC, whether it be on the personal branding side or on the e-commerce side where you're trying to sell product, is a very, very in-depth game. There are layers behind layers that you have to understand about human psychology, keeping people's attention, and how to make them take a desired action just because they watched your video or saw your piece of content. It's like marketing, but super duper advanced and super duper tailored to the new age of social media. So before you go off and spend a bunch of money on fancy lighting or hiring a UGC creator, take a minute to go really, really slow. You need to spend a lot of time in this space before you can actually produce really, really good creatives. And simply put, the best way to start doing that is pick up your phone and start recording. Figure out what lighting looks like, figure out how to tell funny jokes, funny stories. By no means do you have to post any of it, but by all means, you have to practice to be able to figure out if UGC actually works, not only for you, but for your brand and your specific situation. I make e-commerce ads all of the time, so I love to talk to you, give you UGC audit, share with some of the viral formulas that I've used. If you're an e-commerce brand doing over 30K in monthly revenue, shoot me a message. I would love to produce e-commerce ads for you. And if you are not, keep watching other videos about UGC. Again, guys, there is a ton to learn. And until you get to this place where you can afford a creative agency like me to just do it all for you, you don't have to worry anything about that. Spend your time learning UGC. Guys, this is the skill of the future. It's the skill that right now people are using to make several six figures, some even in the 7-figure mark, and you can use it too. But just like any other skill, you have to learn it very, very well. That's it for today's video, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, peace!